drop your cocks and grab your socks, you arrogant little faggot. We're taking a quick tour through 4 years of booze, brothels, barbells, and making shit go boom, also known as my time in the United States Marine Corps, and then I will talk to my cousin Ben about his time in Iraq and the rather chilling way his platoon secured their place in Marine Corps history. It's all coming up in a fresh episode of the Savage Sack Tap, and it starts right now.
You're listening to the Savage Sack Tap. It's not a podcast, it's not a half-cast, it's just a quick shot to the balls to help you finish off the week. We're cutting through the bullshit, filling your Friday with rage-fueled logic, and cracking a few jokes along the way. So grab a bag of frozen peas. There's a Savage Sack Tap coming your way.
Smooth, lascivious, salacious, outrageous.
Alright, this is where I just pause for a moment because that's where I'm going to insert some imaging for the podcast later, and let's do it. Greetings and happy birthday, Marines. A couple days late, but it was the Marine Corps birthday, November 10th, and of course, happy Veterans Day to my fellow vets. I know I got a bunch of friends from different branches of the service that check this out, and anyone else who happens to stumble upon it if you served. Thank you for doing what so few are willing to do, and of course, welcome to all my civilian listeners. You guys make up the bulk of the very, very small fan base out there, but I appreciate all of you guys tuning into the Savage Sack Tap. I am Mike Montone, and the arrogant little faggot reference at the top of the cold open there, by the way, not meant as a slight against the LGBTQIAA and whatever the fuck else you guys have there community. Arrogant little faggot is actually what one of my drill instructors called me one day, and every time I look back on that moment, it makes me giggle. So yeah, I will forever remember standing on line in the squad bay and having Staff Sergeant Coons call me an arrogant little faggot. That one's burned into the memory. That'll be on the deathbed when I'm doing the replay of my life through my head. Arrogant little faggot will definitely make the final cut, the in memoriam. If I'm ever included in an in memoriam slideshow, just that should be how they tag me, arrogant little faggot. Anyway, if you are a regular listener of the Savage Sack Tap, if you can hear loud noise in the background for some reason, I think my landlord's like yelling at somebody on the phone, or there's fuckery of some kind afoot. It should die down momentarily. But if you're a regular listener of the Savage Sack Tap, this week's episode is going to be a deviation from the usual fare, as they say. Typically, I talk about my life for a few minutes, whatever has gone on that past week. If I saw some fucking asshole on the PATH train or the bus who was doing something that infuriated me, instead of going and going viral for fucking Karening out on some douchebag on public transportation because he's blasting his music out of his smartphone for everyone to hear, his fucking Tekashi 6ix9ine, whatever fucking remix he's listening to. I just come on here and bitch about it in a much healthier manner. And then I, usually, riff on the news or whatever the fuck is trending, whatever the hot topic on the internet streets is. But this week, since it was the Marine Corps birthday and Veterans Day, I figured I would reshare an interview I did a couple years ago with my cousin, and also take a few minutes to give you guys a look at my time in the Marine Corps. So my cousin Ben joined the Marine Corps about a year before I did, and he actually went to Iraq a year before I did. We actually pretty much went through the same kind of pattern of joining the Marine Corps a year apart. He graduated boot camp like right before Christmas 2006, and then I graduated officer candidate school right before Christmas 2007. That was the year I graduated college. So then Ben goes to Iraq in 2008, early 2000s. I think he did March to fall of '08, and then I did March through September of '09. Same city, Ramadi, same area of operations. I think like northern Ramadi. Anyway, less than 2 weeks after arriving in country, Ben's platoon was attacked with a 2,000-pound truck bomb, and he survived the attack. But two Marines that were with him did not. One Marine was from his platoon, and the other Marine was just getting ready. It was like 2 weeks away from going home. It was with the outgoing unit, and those Marines died in what I would say is the bravest fashion that I have ever heard of. So I'm gonna discuss that experience with him a little bit. But first, I was hoping that you guys would indulge me for a few minutes while I break down my time in the Corps. I'll go over, why I joined, all the different duty stations and everything. And this is something I've wanted to do for a while. It's just something I've never really sat down and consolidated my Marine Corps experience. And obviously, I'm not doing a 3-hour fucking Joe Rogan here. So it'll be, it'll be a 30,000-foot view. I'll try to hit the important stuff from each kind of leg of the journey, and then I guess at some point there'll be a time when I really get in deep and go back and break anything down. But it's just it's just not something I've talked about that much, and not because of any kind of like trauma. I mean, there is, and I'll get to that later. What I think a lot of vets deal with when they get out, but I haven't like avoided talking about it. It's just I think when I got out, it was May of 2011, and we were still less than a decade from 9/11. We were 7 years from the Battle of Fallujah, which was like all over TV, and only about 2 years after what I would call like the worst fighting in Afghanistan. So I think everything back then was just so fresh that civilians still didn't know how to talk about that kind of stuff with veterans. Like all they were hearing were stories about people getting like, limbs were getting blown off nightly on the news, and you were hearing stories about PTSD kind of hit the headlines for the first time. So I think on the civilian side, people didn't really know what kind of questions to ask back then, or frankly even how to be around just how to act and interact with veterans who had just come out of fighting a two-theater war. And I think there were times where it kind of felt like when you interacted with civilians back then, they were kind of treating you like a fucking alien almost. And that's not, I don't say that in a judgmental way. I get it. Frankly, after 3.5 years on active duty and 2 years living abroad, in the Middle East and in Southeast Asia, it was a huge challenge on my part to relate at all to civilian, and even civilians my own age, like people I'd gone to college with and shit. Like, I remember coming back and there were people I was friends with that there was just something different about relating to them, and it was weird. There was like an odd fog I was walking around in for a little while when I first got out. But I'll touch on that a little bit later, and that's probably an entire fucking episode unto itself. But anyway, I hope what I go over here will kind of clarify some stuff and shed light on the experience. And of course, for my Marine Corps brothers and sisters and other veterans out there, I hope I do justice to the experiences as well. So I guess with that in mind, the place to start would be first, why join the Marine Corps? A multitude of reasons. I remember my first real memories of news, current events, anything like that were in the early 90s when Desert Storm was going on. I remember just watching CNN and seeing, tanks rolling and fucking guys in those old school desert camos. And the early through mid 90s, I guess, was also, I believe that was also the time of the the dress blue dragon sword fighting fucking ridiculous over the top Marine Corps recruiting commercials. So a hefty doses of propaganda at a young age, definitely. Um, my one grandfather was in World War II, and since growing up, I've actually learned that I had a number of kind of like my dad's cousins and stuff fought in like Vietnam, and my mother's uncles fighting in World War II. My grandfather on my mother's side was in the Navy. I think I want to say between World War II and Korea. I think he came of age to join the military just after World War II. So there was always kind of that just hanging there. All of that was just kind of hanging there. And then I'm growing up, I'm playing sports, and my junior year of high school, 9/11 happened, which was obviously in the middle of your fucking formative years. If you can go to the Ridgewood Heights, the next town over, and look out at New York City and see the smoke billowing. I mean, that's how close you grow up to it. Glen Rock, the town I grew up in, had I think it was 11. I think 11 people killed on 9/11, and for reference there, this is a town of 11,000 people. So that's I think if I walked around the neighborhood I grew up in, I could point to I want to say 3 of the houses of people who died. So that's it wasn't a cause, but it made again there are it's a combination of causes, I guess, is why I joined. Like, some people, I guess, do it specifically, money for college, whatever. Like, but for me, it was again, it was sort of a building of different factors and different influences as I went along. But I mean, as a little kid, those fucking stupid fucking dress blues sword fighting commercials where he's running across a flaming chessboard and then kills a dragon, dude, that shit. I got fucking hooked on that stuff. Loved that fucking motivation. But yeah, so I was a junior when 9/11 happened, and I was a senior when I think I was a senior. Yeah, 03, the Iraq War. Yes, I was a senior when the Iraq War kicked off, and a handful of guys that I grew up with joined right out of high school. 2 joined the Marine Corps out of high school, and then we had other guys joining, the Navy or whatever. A guy who we played football with ahead of us had gone off to West Point. There was a long tradition of guys from my town, and particularly athletes from my high school. I was a multi-sport athlete in high school, all serving. So again, it was something that was always very kind of right in front of my face as an option. So it was something I'd had time to think about since I was a child, and I continued. I was drawn to college though because I wanted to continue playing sports. I was playing football, I was running track, and while I was in college, one of my friends from high school, Paul Volpe, was shot and wounded very badly during the Battle of Fallujah, and I was November of my sophomore year. I remember hearing it, and it was, I mean, he was hit to the point where they had to keep him awake because they were worried that if he fell asleep during the evac from the battlefield, he wasn't going to wake up. So this wasn't like, there was an explosion nearby and he got a little fucking concussion. This was a no shit situation. So, you're off at school, you're fucking, you're partying, you're smoking weed, you're bumping a couple lines of blow, you're chasing pussy, lifting weights, playing sports, you're having a great fucking time, you're fucking off in class, and then someone that you've known since you were 5 years old is off in the desert a week before Thanksgiving, getting lit up with fucking AK-47 fire, and you're like, okay, again, I'm not gonna say it's like the reason you join, but it's just another thing that's right there, and you're looking at, all right, what the fuck am I going to do in 2 years when I graduate college? Um, my summer after my junior year, I'm interning, and like, okay, so this is just it, riding the fucking bus into the city with a bunch of other assholes. You go into a building, and then it's in and out. And it's the same fucking thing every day. There's not gonna be any more sports. There's no more teams to be on. That kind of sucks. What do you want to do? Like, are you ready for a desk? At 22, I was in no way ready for a desk job. So, like, well, what can I do? There was, so I was like, well, there's like the CIA and the FBI and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, I'm not fucking smart enough to get into the CIA, so that's out. So I was like, okay, well, the Marine Corps looks pretty badass. I'm awesome at doing pull-ups, and every movie, every TV show I've seen, it just looks like the shit. It looks like you just travel the world with your buddies. You're drinking beers, you're lifting weights, you wear cool uniforms, you play with guns, and on the weekends, everybody goes out and like chases pussy and hangs out at the beach. At 22 years old, that looks like an awesome way to spend the rest of your early 20s. And frankly, as we're about to get to, it was. But it was not without some obstacles in getting there. It was, you spend 4 years at a liberal arts college in Pennsylvania, and your parents are helping. My parents were helping me pay for it, obviously. So they were not thrilled at the prospect of me going off and hopping into the Marine Corps, the branch of service most known for combat during the height of a two-theater war in the Middle East. And I don't blame them. There were some very tense moments surrounding that decision, but they eventually they did come to understand it and support it, and it turned in. And I'm saying a lot. Which I apologize for. A little verbal crutch. I'm not going off as detailed of a note sheet as I usually do. I just kind of have some bullet points that I want to hit. So I don't know what to fucking tell you. If you got a problem with hearing every once in a while, you can turn it off. You can suck my ass. You can keep listening and enjoy the stories. But yeah, tension. I think there's probably tension. If there's not tension in your home when you make a decision like that, then people don't give a shit about you. If you're like, yeah, there's these two wars going on, I want to go fight in them. If people aren't like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Then it probably means that they're cool with you, going off to the Middle East and getting blown up. Which I guess that would actually be worse than running into to that kind of resistance. So I understand it. I understand it. I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but I certainly get the kind of stress and heartache that could cause. But I remember I solidified the decision for myself over winter break of my senior year. I stopped smoking weed because I knew I had to get ready for the piss test, and I started getting up and going out for just fucking long winter runs. Because I was I again, there's any, sorry, suck my dick. I was a 400-meter hurdler on the track team for the longest time. My junior year, I blew out my hamstring and kind of just got really serious into weightlifting because there was no trying to get the kind of speed and turnover necessary to run the 400-meter hurdles, especially like going around the turns on the track. Like after that injury, it was pretty much just toast. So I was still on the track team my senior year, but I really used the time to prepare for the Marine Corps. So I was getting my ass out of bed early as fuck in the morning, going on long cold weather fucking northeast January 6 a.m. runs, hammering pull-ups. And I did that all the way through the end of my senior year. Even at track meets, I would go and find a pull-up bar in whatever college we were at, their gym. I would go for runs around campus. I studied and learned as much as I could about the Marine Corps before going, and then went. You do the PFT with the the officer recruiter. You put in your package with it's letters of recommendation and all that shit. And I remember I got a nice high score on my PFT. It's a 3 mile run. It's a max set of chin ups, and it is a 2 minute max set of sit ups. So I wound up you get perfect score on the chin ups and the sit ups, and got myself a nice I think before I shipped out my 3 mile was down to about 20 minutes. I wound up at the end of OCS running it in about 19 I think. So yeah, so I spent the last 3 months before shipping out in September of '07 living back at home. I got myself a little temp job working in a mailroom, and that was boring as fuck. So I would just literally every day was just go do bullshit temp job, fucking meet up with my buddy who was also working a temp job at the same place. The two of us and our other buddy would get fucking hammered, wake up, show up late for the temp job, and just do that every day and go for a run and hammer pull-ups after work. I do wish I had continued to lift weights while I was getting ready. I would say anyone who's getting ready to join the Marine Corps, the military in general, lift fucking weights. Back then, they were stressing the body weight stuff so much. It's hard to describe, but at the time, weightlifting was just becoming to be accepted as a legitimate form of military PT. They military guys always lifted weights, but it was kind of looked at as sort of like a vanity thing. So when you were getting told what to do to prep for the military, they were like, yeah, you got to do all this body weight stuff and go on long runs, and that totally fucked me up. I learned then that I need fucking weights, and I think I would say as someone who studied exercise science, fucking everybody needs weights. But if you're joining the military, you definitely need some fucking weights. Do not just rely on distance runs, hikes, and pull-ups. Not gonna fucking cut it. Anyway, that fucking let me tell you something. Before we move on, that summer, knowing you have a ship-off date to fucking OCS and the shit that awaits you, especially having read about it and you hear the stories, oof, you want to sleep well at night because you know you're not going to be sleeping much soon, but it is fucking hard to get quality shut-eye, hence the copious amounts of alcohol. But yeah, I remember my last night home, I do not recall sleeping at all. I went out to dinner with my family, had all my shit packed and ready to go, and then we got back from dinner. I went out, had a couple last beers with some buddies here and there. Went to my buddies who had played high school football, which went to their place for a little while. Drank a couple beers. Went out to a hometown bar with my college and other hometown friends, and just kind of spent the last remaining hours before going with people I liked, relaxing, not getting fucking screamed at and spit on by drill instructors, as one would. And then the next morning, I again couldn't fucking sleep. Stayed up reading the OCS chapters in One Bullet Away, which is a great fucking book if you want to read about what it's like becoming and serving as a Marine Corps officer. I went for a run while it was still pitch black out. This was late September. It was probably 5 a.m. still dark. Went for a run down to the park where I used to play Little League. Hammered some pull-ups, and then it was time to go. And I went down to Virginia. I took a train to Philadelphia. Met up with another dude in my platoon, and we drove down, and we had to turn ourselves in the next day. So we got some Cracker Barrel and tried to get you try to get a decent night's sleep, but it's just there's just too much anticipation. When you're a kid at Christmas time and you're all fucking you're all jacked off because Santa Claus, because something bad happened with your uncle on Christmas Eve. No, but when you're a kid, and you're waiting for fucking Christmas to show up, there's just that nervous anticipation, and you can't sit still and you can't sleep. It's a lot like that. But yeah, so you check in, you turn yourself in at OCS in Quantico, and there's a few days worth of it's like in processing, where it's just paperwork and bullshit, and you're getting zero sleep, and they're wearing you out. And this is late September in Virginia, and it is hot as fuck. Like, it doesn't start getting cool in Virginia until, I want to say, not even November. By the time we graduated, November 30th, it was finally starting to get cold out. But prior to that, I would say the last 2 weeks it finally cooled down. Before that, it's fucking hot, man. Virginia gets fucking steamy, and especially out on the parade deck, it's just this big blacktop that you're constantly marching around. That fucking sucks. And then they bring you into the classroom one day, and they turn you over to your drill instructors, and shit just pops the fuck off. You have all of your shit, all of your uniforms, your toothbrush, shit. You're gonna brush your toothbrush is what you brush your teeth with. I realize how fucking stupid that sounded. Your everything you will need for the next 10 weeks: boots, sneakers, your fucking bedding, whatever fucking stuff you're gonna put on your feet if you get a blister, everything. You're out on this stupid big fucking blacktop parade deck, and they're making you. There's a list of shit that you have to have. So they announce different items, and they make you take it out and hold it up, and I mean all your shit is dumped everywhere, and then they bring you back into you have to pack it all up, and they bring you back into the squad bay. They start assigning out your racks, and it's just fucking chaos. There's drill instructors running around screaming, throwing stuff. Racks are getting thrown around the squad bay. You're trying to get your stuff into the locker. They're making you take your fucking boots off and put them back on. You're crawling around the ground like a fucking asshole. It's a ridiculous scene. It is meant to be chaotic and confuse you, and to stress you out. The entire name of the game at Officer Candidate School, at least in the Marine Corps, is reacting to stress. They're trying to make simple things seem like impossible tasks. Which for me, I suck at stupid little things like opening a combination lock. I fucking suck at opening combination locks. It takes me like 5 fucking tries under the best of circumstances. So there were a lot of times in the early days at OCS when I'd like grab the fucking dude next to me and give him my combo and be like, I can't get this stupid fucking thing open, and have him do it. Like, to the point where my one guy whose rack was next to mine one day was just like, dude, we gotta unfuck you on this. And he's literally like, all right, do this, and he's like, just fucking practice it 100 times until you don't fuck it up anymore. And then finally I was like, I can open a fucking combination lock. Let me tell you something, I have lost that skill. I fucking no clue it would take me now, again, 100 tries to open a fucking combination lock. Stupid. I fucking hate stupid fucking things. Since middle school, this has been a fucking problem. But yeah, the PT, I was, again, great at the long distance endurance stuff, but the rope climbing, the obstacle courses, my first 3 weeks there, dude, I felt like a Special Olympics reject. I don't know if that makes sense, but I was having trouble getting over obstacles. This is ridiculous. I've been an athlete my whole life. In retrospect, it's because I'm so used to like lifting weights and shit that I, propel myself, do whatever the fuck, fly around a football field, that I'm just, and again, I think this applies to everybody. I think you should lift weights before doing this, but I've found that me personally, I need the fucking weights. But eventually, I did adapt. Your body has a weird way of doing that. And I wound up, by the time I got to the basic school, I was actually nasty at the fucking O course. And I absolutely fell in love with being out in the field. Because when you're out patrolling and, assaulting objectives and walking around the woods with the combat instructors, that's when you weren't dealing with fucking drill instructors and their bullshit. And frankly, dealing with drill instructors and their bullshit fucking sucks. You don't want to deal with drill instructors and their bullshit. Absolutely fucking awful, miserable. They literally, these gentlemen, they have nothing to do all day except for fuck with you. Think about it. If you think if you joined a fraternity or something like that, and you think, oh, that sucked. No, dealing with fucking drill instructors. There's just 3 of them. They're hopped up on fucking Monster Energy drink and whatever other stimulants they're pumping into their veins 24 hours a day, and they have, by government decree, they are allowed to fuck with you in the widest range of ways possible. Imagine being a grown man and having another grown man scream in your face while you assemble, disassemble, reassemble, disassemble, reassemble, over and over, a little pup tent, a little camping tent, until you have assembled it in a manner that is to this gentleman's liking. And then, when he's not pleased in the arrangement of dozens of said pup tents out at the bivouac site, he decides that he will make you disassemble and reassemble and disassemble and reassemble said pup tents once again, so that you learn the lesson that it is a very bad idea to fuck up while assembling a tent. Like, that is it. And that sounds, if you were getting annoyed with me while I described that experience, imagine what it's like when you're doing that and it's fucking rainy and you haven't eaten all day and you're walking around in, wet boots, wet fucking socks, hungry, chilly. Yeah, fucking blows. But the nice thing is, you get away from that. It's time to go out and fucking patrol and land nav and run the endurance course. They're nowhere to be fucking found. So I loved getting away from those motherfuckers in the field. Also, another good way to get away from your drill instructors when you're at boot camp or OCS is to pretend to be religious, because they have to give certain chunks of time every week to religious services. So on Sunday, they have no shit fucking church service for like a couple hours, whatever it is. So that's awesome. You get out of whatever fucking, basically just get out of the squad bay is probably the best way to put it, because there's nothing actually going on at that. They'll save the fuckery, while you guys are at church, but it's just getting away from the fucking drill instructors, because they're always around. Like, there is no fucking escaping them. They control 24 hours of your life. So if you can get away to church for 2 hours a week, you fucking do it. And you fall asleep in the fucking, the back pew while the priest is going on and on about whatever the fuck, and you're refreshed, and you're like, that's awesome. And they also have nightly, they would let, the different groups kind of break off into their own circles. If you're not in one of those groups, they snatch you up and make you do fucking tasks for the drill instructors. So again, get the fuck away from the drill instructors. Go say a fucking, a prayer to St. Thomas Aquinas, whoever the fuck he is. And that's that. And they also, like, once every couple weeks, they would have this weirdo, like, hardcore Christian shit called Prayer and Praise, where the fucking, like, the hardcore, I don't even know, I guess the Protestants, like, the Southern fucking Baptist, those people who are, like, fighting, where the preacher holds up a really poisonous snake, and he's like, this ain't gonna hurt me none, because I got the power of Jesus Christ on my side. Whatever, all those fuckers. They would have this prayer and praise thing, like, one night every 2 weeks or so, and they would, you'd be able to be like, yeah, I'm religious, I gotta go to this shit, and you go to that, same fucking deal. You just fall asleep while people are singing these. By the way, they would blast this, like, Christian rock in there. Good stuff. Very catchy, uplifting, positive, and fantastic to take a nap to. But yeah, I mean, eventually everything clicked. I would say the first maybe the first like 3-4 weeks I was there, I was worried about getting dropped because they do drop about a third of the class. But no, I made it. I figured it out, and went. You go on after that. I graduated on November 30th, which was nice. It was right before the holidays, so instead of getting the usual just 10 days off, we got the whole month off. We didn't have to check into the next school until a couple days after New Year's, and that was the basic school in also in Quantico, Virginia. So I went home for a month, had some fun, ate, you just feasted, because I was fucking, you come out of OCS lean as a motherfucker. I don't know if I will ever have a body fat percentage that low again. Like, I'm pretty sure I would have to get AIDS. I would have to go around having unprotected gay sex and then go through the entire incubation period to get my of HIV, have it turn to full-blown AIDS to get that lean again. Yeah, so I get to the basic school on January 3rd, 2008, and the basic school was fucking fun. The most fun you never want to have again, I guess is a good way to describe it, but it was 6 months of playing with guns, lifting weights, and chasing pussy. And I'm serious. You get there, and the first month is rifle range, martial arts, and they start introing you to like land nav, which I'll get to in a sec. But so for that month, you're shooting guns and you're fighting. Like, you're just punching your buddies and shooting guns and you're backflipping people. And then on the weekend, you go out to like Washington, D.C. We would go out, we would visit different colleges, whatever that was within like a couple hour drive for like a road trip. So we'd go down to like University of North Carolina, University of Maryland. I remember I went up to University of Maryland one weekend, and I went home with some sorority chick, and I raw dogged her a couple times, and I used to carry my rifle key on like a little lanyard around my neck so I wouldn't lose it, because we were locking our rifles up in in our barracks room, and I lost my rifle key while I was fucking her, and I didn't realize it until I was on my way home, so I had to explain to the fucking platoon commander and the company gunny that I had lost my rifle key while fucking some chick up at the University of Maryland. But it was worth it. Banging chicks is always worth it, dog. You know what I'm saying? Fuck yeah. And it was great. It was such a Marine Corps moment, because the company gunny was explaining to me that someone from Al-Qaeda could get their hands on that key, get into our barracks, and steal a rifle, and then go shoot people. Which, there was no ammunition, so I don't know where he was going to get the ammo. It's just a very opportunistic terrorist who happens to stumble upon this key, goes out and gets himself some 5.56, figures he can find the barracks. You know, when you think about it, a lot of military threats are really, really steeped in absolute bullshit. But that's sort of the way that they keep you in line, is with these, they draw up these absurd scenarios that you have to... Who the fuck is calling me right now while I'm live streaming? I can't even turn the fucking, the thing off, because I have, I apologize for this. How is it not on Do Not Fucking Disturb? It's gonna keep going, isn't it? Yeah, decline. Fuck. I guess I have to put my fucking phone in Do Not Disturb mode. I don't fucking know. Yeah, that was, anyway, apologies. Yeah, the basic school was also where, it was where, I took what I refer to as the trip to Punjabi, when an Indian couple, surreptitiously used me as the bull in their cuckold fetish. We were out in, Adams Morgan in D.C., and I met this Indian chick, and, she took me back to a hotel room, and I fucked her, and the way she led me in, she didn't even turn the fucking lights on. I go to take a piss as soon as we get in, and you know, the bathroom in a hotel room is like right there when you step in. So I veer off, and as soon as I stepped out of the bathroom, the lights were off, and she was just standing there in her underwear, and she led me to the bed on the far end of the room. And I didn't even think to give, a scan around the room. I was just worried about fucking this chick. And so we do it, and we're fucking for a while, because it's like drunk fucking, so, it takes forever for you to, if you get a rod, and you're like wearing a condom, and you're like, I gotta get this fucking condom off, it's killing my rod. So eventually, I fucked her, I raw dogged her, fucking cream pied her, left that shit leaking, and I'm like, alright. I'm starting to sober up at that point. I'm like, I should probably just fucking raw dog some strange chick that I just met. I should probably go wash my dick off. So I go in the bathroom, I'm washing my dick off with soap and hot water, and I step back out into the main room, and the lights are on, and there's this Indian dude passed, or what I assume was passed out, in the other bed, fully clothed, Argyle sweater, khaki pants. I can still see him right there, just what I believe now, pretending to be asleep, because I'm pretty sure he was up for the entire performance. I'm like, alright, it's time for me to, exit stage left here. So I got the fuck out of there, and I remember she was like trying to get me to stay. She's like, why are you leaving? And I'm like, because that guy's gonna wake up. He's gonna be pissed that I fucked his chick. And because I had no idea what a cuckold fetish was at the time. In retrospect, he was probably thrilled that I fucked his chick, and probably wanted me to like stick around so he could eat the cream pie and then maybe clean me off. I don't know what those two had in mind, but I will say this: it was fun fucking that chick though. She had just a tight little pussy and a great body. So good for me for doing that, because that was fun. The rest of the weekends, we would go up to like Atlantic City and shit. Though you come back fucking late, like midnight on Sunday, and you got to be up at 04:30 to go into the field the next day. That was always a good time. Just mainlining Vivarin and Red Bull on the way out to load up the 7 tons before heading out to the field after getting no sleep for the past 72 hours because we were getting shit faced and cramming into a 3-bed what they call a suite at the local Roach Motel in AC. We stay at this place. You can look it up. I'm sure the Yelp reviews are wonderful, but it's called the Flamingo, or as we used to know it, the Flaming O. It's about a block off the boardwalk there. I remember one time we were there. There was this very large black hooker was using one of the rooms to operate out of, and there were a line of gentlemen waiting outside the room, and she was literally just bringing them in one after the other. Okay, Tyrone, you next. But yeah, that's AC for you. As far as training at the basic school, so you go to you're basically at the basic school. The basic school is where they turn you into a basically trained Marine officer. So OCS is the evaluation process that gets you in. The basic school is what turns you into a now you're capable of kind of managing a platoon of Marines. You still need more training. You got to follow on MOS school and all that. But yeah. So you spend a lot of time in the field. You're in the field about 2 weeks out of every month, doing leading assaults, everything up from the fire team level to the company level, which is company is for an infantry company, it's three rifle platoons and a weapons platoon, and then you also do a shitload of land navigation, and land navigation is a motherfucker. Land navigation, you have I think it's about one evaluation a month while you're there, including a nighttime land nav, without any no NVGs or anything like that. You have to do it like tactically fucking sound. No lights. If you get caught with a fucking a light, they get you. But land nav, I'll get to the night land nav in a second. Land nav is they give you a bunch of grid coordinates, and it's just a card with grid coordinates, and you have your map. And they give you a start point, and you go out to you plot your points on the map. You go out to your start point, and they say, all right, you got to be back here in however many hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, whatever, and you have to get it's 80% to pass. And these things are on dozens of fucking acres of woods in the Quantico Highlands, and I was lucky. I did most of this in January through April, while the leaves and everything are still growing in. By the time we were doing our last one in June, late June, that fucking overgrowth is dense, and it is a bitch going through that fucking course, because what you're looking for is about the size of it's a painted ammo can about the size of a mailbox, and these things it'll have a letter on it, and the letter will correspond to the grid coordinates. So when you find it, you write the letter down and you show that to the evaluator. That's how they know you found the thing. You're not allowed to help each other. If you get caught communicating with someone, you fail. If you get caught using a GPS, you fail. The night land nav, you have to cross there's a stream. I mean, it's a wide fucking stream, but it's a hefty body of water. And there's concertina and razor wire all over the fucking place. And you can't get caught with light. You use light, but what you have to do is use your red, you have a red night light that you use, and you have to use it under your poncho. If an instructor catches you sees your light, tactically, you will also get failed. So basically, land nav is just one great big butt fuck. And if you fail at land nav, you have to come back in and repeat it until you succeed at land nav. And if you don't succeed at land nav, you don't get to move on. And eventually, they just cycle your ass out of the Marine Corps, and you go home with your tail between your legs as a huge fucking failure. So the end of the basic school comes, and the basic school is where I also made like my first kind of like friends for life in the Marine Corps too. Awesome motherfuckers. They're the ones who were out with me when I was on my trip to Punjabi, when I was losing my rifle key while going balls deep in a University of Maryland sorority chick. All of that shit. You're all just going out. You're a bunch of you're all confident as fuck. You're in great shape, and you go out and you're just ready. You are just swaggering, swinging dicks at that point. You are just 23 years old, ready to booze, ready to fuck. It's awesome. I mean, it was good fucking times. Then I go down to North Carolina for combat engineer school, because I wanted to be a public affairs officer, believe it or not, because I had a communication degree, and I was like, well, I should probably do something with this degree of mine, so I can get a job when I get out. But they were like, no, you're not going to be a public affairs officer. We don't need you telling a reporter to go fuck himself. You need to pick something that involves making shit go boom. I didn't want to stay. I was done with fucking Quantico. I'd been there long enough. So infantry was out. I wasn't very good at math. Artillery was out. I would later find out that apparently combat engineering involves a considerable amount of math. I didn't realize that. So that was out. I put a bunch of like the intel occupations on, like ground intel seemed pretty cool, human intel seemed pretty cool, but I didn't get those. I got my number 2 choice, which was combat engineering, because the introduction that we got to combat engineering was like laying out defensive schemes and putting together like fucking explosives and demolition, and I was like, blowing shit up is fucking awesome. I will forever have a deep love for making shit go boom. When I was a teenager, we used to make little bombs out of aerosol cans. We would shove an aerosol can in a shoe. We'd tie a string to the button at the top, and we would soak the string in gasoline, light the string, and take cover behind a car, and we would blow up shoes in the middle of the street. So I've always loved blowing shit up, and I guess the Marine Corps saw that in me, and they sent me to combat engineering school down in North Carolina. It was July, again, hot as fuck, but at least Camp Lejeune is right on the beach. Camp Lejeune is like, if you're a 19-year-old like Lance Corporal, or even me, I was like a 23-year-old junior officer in the Marine Corps. I mean, it is just a place where you can have like, I mean, it's in retrospect, it's a miserable, shitty place. It's just strip malls and strip clubs and fucking tattoo parlors, and and used car dealerships that are there to steal money from young Marines. But you can also have a shitload of fun. So we would have every Thursday during engineer school, they would have a little happy hour. They would end class at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They would get all the officer students together with the staff NCO students and the NCOs and the instructors, and you would just booze it up, and you would talk about Marine Corps shit, and it was like very informal, just good fucking times. People would be playing like dice games, getting gambling, getting drunk, just all sorts of fuckery abounded. Usually what would happen is it would come around 7-8 o'clock, and someone would come up with the good idea to go out to a bar. You do that for a couple hours. It's getting later. Someone says, hey, what say we hit up one of the Jacksonville area's many fine strip clubs? And the next thing you know, it's like 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and you've ripped through a pack of Marlboro Reds, and there is a 12-pack of Bud Heavy bottles in front of you, while a fucking C-section scar jiggles seductively before your eyes, and you see who could possibly be the next future Mrs. Montone. No, but I do have a lot of, I say, special place in my heart for a lot of things: explosions, machine guns, and of course the ladies at such wonderful titty bars as Cherries and the Driftwood, which I hear the Driftwood is no longer there in Jacksonville. My cousin, who we're about to hear from in a little bit, informed me that the Dirtwood was no more. So may she rest in peace. But yeah, you'd basically suck down beers and cigarettes while looking at pussy until 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you'd have PT at like 6. So you'd be on 2 hours of that awful fucking beer sleep. You wake up still drunk, still reeking of booze and cigarettes, and you go out and you sweat it out during a miserable run. But at least then it's a Friday morning, so you're like, okay, they're gonna cut us early. We'll be done with this fucking day by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I can go pass out in the air conditioning and figure out what kind of trouble I'm gonna get into over the weekend. And usually that trouble meant going down to either East Carolina University, fucking Myrtle Beach, or Wilmington, North Carolina. On the weekends, you try to get away from Jacksonville because it is just a miserable fucking town. It is a shithole of a shithole, and anyone who's been stationed there will say there are some nice beaches, though. I will say that Topsail Island's pretty nice beaches in the area. So I spent a lot of time chilling on the beach. But yeah, we go down to like towns like Wilmington. And I remember the only real night that distinctly sticks out in my mind from Wilmington was I went home with this redheaded chick one night, and her obese blonde friend gave us a ride, and we're standing outside the club making out, and all of a sudden down the street you hear gunfire, and her and her obese friend started hurling N-bombs, yelling it's those N's again. And they're like, let's go, her friend's like, I'm gonna go get the car. She pulls this SUV up, and I hop in, and it's caged off in the back because I guess she works with fucking dogs or something like that. And we go back to this like little ranch style home in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I'm still on Operation Try to Bang the Redhead, which is I've never been. It's my brother likes redheads so much that he married one. I've never been my style. I've always preferred more of a Mediterranean look. But anyway, I'm there trying to bang this chick. She's taking bong hits. The obese blonde friend is still hurling N-bombs about the house. The chick takes me to her bedroom. We make out, and then she's just like, all right, I'm going to sleep. So I'm like, the fuck? So I just like did that, that uncomfortable sleep where you're like sleeping in a strange place and you can't fall asleep. So you just kind of lay there while the dark just gets a little lighter and lighter and lighter, and like creeps in, and maybe you catch like a couple winks here and there. yeah, that was about all I got. And then they like dropped me off. I finally figured out what hotel my friends were staying at. I called them, and they dropped me off. And I believe the ride back to the hotel was also filled with N bombs. But I had orders to go out to Okinawa from engineer school, and that was in November. So I go home a couple days. We do like a little early Thanksgiving, and I get on the plane out to Okinawa, which was weird. My grandfather died the day I flew out there. So he was in the hospital, but we just thought he was going to be. He was in the hospital all the fucking time. So I've accidentally been very insensitive with people when their grandparents were in the hospital, because I grew up just assuming that your grandparents were going to land in the hospital, once a month, at least once a quarter. They did not take very good care of. Loved them, great people. My grandmother was a great. She could bake her fucking ass off. Probably why she had type 2 diabetes. Probably why her and her husband were in the hospital so frequently. But yeah, he passed away. He was a Navy vet, and my cousin just got back from Iraq, so it was at least like we both got to say goodbye to him together, and like there was at least kind of a special moment. But he died on my way out there, and not sooner than like 2 weeks after I went to the Marine Corps ball, which is obviously in November for the Marine Corps birthday, and I went. I was we were doing a leaders recon of this Ieshima matting project. I was going to be in charge of building an airfield on a tiny island in the Pacific, which looked to be as about exciting as it sounds. When I walked into the operations office one day, he's like, "Hey, he's got a call. You need to pack your fucking bags. You're going to Camp Pendleton. There is a reserve battalion. It's an infantry battalion. They're getting ready to go to Iraq. They're going to go to Iraq in March. You're going with them. You're probably going to get the engineer platoon, but, they could task you with whatever when you get there." So they put me on I put all my shit in storage. Whatever shit I had, actually. The other stuff arrived and was put into storage because this was literally so quickly that my belongings hadn't arrived in Okinawa yet from the U.S. That's how quickly I got turned around. So I landed at Pendleton, jet lagged as fuck. I had to try. I didn't even know where the fuck this unit was. I had to find them on Camp Pendleton, which is a huge base. I wound up driving out into the middle of fucking nowhere on the base, this little place called Camp Horno, and I walk into the headquarters building and check in, and they introduced me to the battalion commander and sergeant major, and I'm so fucking jet lagged and out of it that I'm not in uniform. I'm in a fucking hoodie and flip flops. I'm calling people dude and man. I'm saying, "Yeah, stoked to be here." Like I'm talking like a fucking surfer. So they finally get me like checked in and set up, and it's like a week before I get assigned to a unit. And they're like, "Hey, we know you just went through combat engineer school and you just learned to do that job, but guess what? You're actually going to be serving as an infantry officer. Here's a rifle platoon." And I think they saw the confused look on my face, because I remember the battalion XO, Major Batanga, who's a bad motherfucker. He is a fucking savage. Was like, he looked at me like he thought I was like scared or something like that. He's like, "Is that all right? You gonna be okay?" I was like, "Yeah, sorry. I just went through a 4-month engineer school learning how to blow shit up. So no, I'm gonna have to just dust off the old infantry books. Yeah, we'll be good to go." And I checked in, and I initially had a weapons platoon, which was badass. A weapons platoon is machine guns, mortars, and rockets, which is cool as fuck. And then about a month in, after we had started like training, I start getting to know the guys. One of the other officers in the company, this guy, he was Captain Grapes at the time, and if you look up Lieutenant Jesse Grapes and what he did in the Battle of Fallujah, I was about to have very big shoes to fill, because this guy is a fucking war hero, bad motherfucker. They tell me he's getting assigned to it's called a MIT team. It's like a military training team where they would go out and train the Iraqi military. I'm going to be taking over his platoon. So all of a sudden, this platoon of infantry marines goes from having hero of the Battle of Fallujah, Jesse Grapes, as their platoon commander, to having boot as fuck, straight out of MOS school, just hit the fleet, Mike Montone. Second Lieutenant Mike Montone is their platoon commander. So it was a multi-month process, really, of developing trust and rapport with the platoon level leadership, and a lot of like awkward fumbling along the way, stepping on my own dick. I remember, I think I led us probably a quarter mile in the wrong direction over some shitty, fucking awful rocky terrain, carrying gear one day, just because I fucked up reading the path on the map and made a complete fucking ass out of myself. This was while we were at Mojave Viper, as known as CAX. But that was probably we went to we did CAX in February. I got a week off for Christmas. I surprised my parents by booking a surprise flight home, and then we went back out to San Diego for another Christmas break. Was fun. New Year's Eve, I gave some chick the shocker in the bathroom at a bar, and my buddy was waiting outside the bathroom for me when I got out. And he's like, "What the hell were you doing in there?" And I just swiped my pinky underneath his nose. I dirty Sanchez'd him with this chick's asshole on my pinky, and he had to go outside and puke on the sidewalk. It was adorable. It was a warm moment that him and I reminisce fondly over to this day. But went out, trained a little bit more out at Camp Pendleton, and then we go to Mojave Viper, which is at 29 Palms, which is, if you think Camp Lejeune is a shithole, 29 Palms makes fucking Lejeune look like paradise. Because at least Lejeune has the beach. 29 Palms is just a fucking flat desert train. Well, there's a little bit of mountain range out there. I shouldn't call it completely flat, but it is fucking... I mean, it's fucking... There's a reason they call it Death Valley or whatever the fuck. I mean, it sucks. The Mojave Desert fucking sucks. But the training out there fucking rules. I mean, it was, for me I went out there, it was late January, we went out there, maybe early February. Yeah, early February, because right after probably a couple days after the Super Bowl. We were out there from then until the end of March when we deployed. Fucking crash course in leading a rifle platoon, because I didn't go to infantry officers course, so I had to learn that shit on the fly. So we were, they bring actual Iraqis over to like role play as terrorists and tribal leaders and shit like that. So you're getting no shit sit down experience with former Iraqi tribal leaders who are in they're flying them to the States to get them away from getting attacked by Al Qaeda over there, and to train you over here. You're running fucking multi-day live fire ranges with overhead air support and sniper teams and stuff like that out in the desert. I mean, it's miserable living. Like, you're living in Quonset huts. First time I ever jacked off in a porta shitter was out at Mojave Viper. The best cheeseburgers you will ever eat at the Warriors Club there, after coming in from like 3 days out in the field or whatever, or running a fucking battalion assault. The double cheeseburgers with curly fries and a big ass Dr. Pepper. Holy fucking shit. If I'm on death row, easily in contention for a last meal. Yeah. Oh, fucking tasty. I'm just thinking, so fucking good. Terrible for you, but you're burning through so many fucking calories that you can stay shredded on that. Because literally the only thing there is to do out at 29 Palms is train, lift weights, jerk off, and sleep. So you're in beast shape. You're going out for fucking boots runs in the deserts, lifting weights. Guys are just they're playing tackle football, beating the shit out of each other. I mean, it is the manliness defined out there. Like, they should, in a better world, I mean, I guess you couldn't do this. I was gonna say they should bring in a shitload of pussy like the French do. They have like comfort girls. But if you want your guys to be razor's edge sharp killers, that's what you do. You send them out into the desert to do nothing but train and fight with each other for fucking 6 to 8 weeks and deprive them of pussy, and they will come out ready to fucking kill. And that's, that is the point, because that's the last stop before getting to Iraq. And I should look at the time here. Holy shit, I'm over an hour on this. I'm gonna have to break this up into a multi-parter. I didn't realize that. Wow. Yeah, yikes. Oh my, and there's still much to go. So yeah, we get to Iraq, get to Ramadi. We flew there. It's a several day process to get there. So we flew from the Mojave Deserts to Minnesota, refuel, flew to Ireland, stopped in Ireland, and drank a little Guinness, and then it was off to Kuwait. And we did we bus ride it? No, we took like a military transport from Kuwait into Iraq, and then we took 7 tons to Camp Ramadi, and that's when we started going out on going out in patrols, left seat, right seat, with we were relieving 2-9 in Ramadi. And Ramadi, this is 2009, spring of 2009, so Ramadi had been the sort of fucking, after Fallujah, Ramadi was like the next hotbed of action in Al Anbar province. But yeah, it was definitely, it was tame by the time I got there. And again, I have this interview with my cousin. I'm gonna attach this thing. I got to figure out now how the fuck I'm gonna put this all together, because I didn't realize how long I was going. But it had been hotter when he was there. He was there kind of as they finished taming it. By the time we got there, I remember my first patrol, we went to a tribal leader's house, and we went there for dinner. They invited us for dinner, and our appetizer was microwave pizzas, which we ate while drinking Iraqi energy drinks and watching Jonas Brothers videos, which they were getting on MTV Europe, which they were like pirating in with their bootleg satellite disc. So there's that, and you can't really drink in Iraq. There's actually an order against it. So the only, there was like a Vietnam vet who knew from home, who was sending me like little things of like booze to drink, and like other guys had like their own mason jar full of booze. And my Doc Perg, who we've since lost to a post service suicide. He hooked me up with some Jameson on my birthday. But yeah, it's you're not able to drink over there. I remember we had beers. Me and a bunch of the staff NCOs had beers one night, and our fucking company commander almost caught us. And this dude definitely would have fucked us for it. Like, there would have been no, like, hey, just throw those things out. We're gonna pretend this never happened. Like, that motherfucker definitely would have busted out the paperwork discipline, which you really don't want, because that shit, that then follows you around for your career. Although I will say, everyone who's cool in the Marine Corps, I know, has gotten into some kind of fucking trouble. But yeah, Iraq was ridiculous. I remember I spent my 24th birthday laying in the mud in a canal at like 2 a.m. getting ready to help the Iraqi police raid an insurgent safe house. I had my first enemy contact. A patrol I was leading got hit with an RKG, which is an anti-tank grenade. And my vehicle, we were driving around, we were trying to cut off the guy who threw it. We got stuck in an alley, so we had to back the fuck out of there. And we go over a curb in the middle of the street, like a median, and a white star cluster fell out of the turret, and it went off on the turret stand and fucking set the inside of the MRAP on fire. We pile out of the MRAP, start trying to blast the blaze, because everything is getting torched in there. I mean, when I say up in flames, I mean it was up in fucking flames very quickly. So we're trying our fire extinguishers, none of them work. Finally, the Iraqis come running out with buckets of water. So I got one vehicle that's half blown up, one that's fucking burnt out, and the helicopters overhead, they're like, hey, we think we found the guy. So we go with the Iraqi police, and they go, and they just pull like 20 dudes out of this house, and they throw them in a pickup truck, and I'm sure they all got like sodomized, and it turned out that they probably didn't have anything to do with it. But yeah, I remember that. You know, we had a Marine survive getting shot in the head by a sniper. The round went in. It traced a path around the top of the helmet and came out the other side. Lucky call. We got sent down. This is all in the first like 3 months I'm there. We got sent down to. We were about an hour south of Fallujah, and we were working with the Kurds. And the Kurds were interesting cats. They had this. They had this kid, this like teenage twink with them that they called the Chai Boy, who would serve them tea by day, and by night they would just butt fuck the shit out of him. And he would dress like a little twink in like capri pants and a tight lime green polo shirt, and just get his asshole riddled with Kurdish cock. We were out there, and we got hit with rocket fire. We got rocket attacked, and I remember we ran a patrol to go try to track down the rocket team that had attacked us. And we find this farmhouse because the drone said there was a heat signature coming from this farmhouse, and the Iraqi the Kurds raid the farmhouse. They fuck this guy. They break his door, and they're inside, and he comes out yelling at them. And we're like, what the fuck's going on? Because my guys were all perched up on top of this berm outside the house, ready to light it up in case there's a gunfight. My squad leader that I had out with me grabs me. He's like, hey, sir, I think I know where the heat signature came from. And he points to a pen of goats. And we're like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. We just woke this motherfucker up in the middle of the night and broke his door because of fucking goats. So yeah, that's the kind of shit that happens out there. We had to tow one of the other units that was out with us out there hit an IED, and we had to tow their blown up vehicle back to the little patrol base, and it was dragging on the ground and it starts sparking, and the fucking blown up vehicle starts catching fire while we're trying to drag it back to the base. It was just fucking ridiculous. I got more porta shitter jerking off. We used to do prisoner releases. This is weird. So there's this prison in Iraq called Buka, which is where they used to kind of store the worst of the worst Iraqi like insurgents. And we, as part of the U.S. leaving, our mission was to release them back into society. And it turns out now, and that was one of my missions. I used to have to fucking release these guys all the fucking time and process them out of prison. Turns out those guys are the ones who were joining ISIS. So it's weird to think about having rubbed elbows with dudes who were definitely fucking cutting heads off. The food over there, absolutely amazing. It's funny, the only time you figure you're going to get like diarrhea and the shits from eating the local food because they're using like, sewage water to wash their vegetables. You shouldn't be eating it at all. But you do, and it's delicious. The only time I ever got the shits was from, I think it was a bad container of Metrex. Because as soon as I stopped using that particular protein powder, the shits went away. But Doc Perg was good enough to hook me up with some loperamide to cork things up while I figured that out for myself. But yeah, I got home and all I wanted to do was booze it the fuck up and finger bang sorority girls, and that is exactly what I did, and it was glorious. I remember just fucking drinking adios motherfuckers and laying into some college snatch, and I had a few weeks off to kind of recuperate, and then I went out to Okinawa, and I'm gonna have to abbreviate this fucking Okinawa talk here because I did not realize I was going this fucking long. But yeah, the first thing I did when we went out to Oki was I went to Taiwan for Thanksgiving, and a dude in my unit got let's just say burned by some local call girls. We were out at a bar, and he fancied himself a ladies' man, which he really was not. He would just get wasted and sexually harassed chicks until they slapped him and walked away. But on this particular evening, he caught the eye of these Filipino buy me drinky girls, which buy me drinky girls are very common. over in Asia. Basically, they hang out and drink with you as long as you are buying them drinks, and then when it looks like the booze is about to dry up, they'll ask if you want to pay their bar fine. And the bar fine is basically their prostitution fee to leave the bar and go fuck you. So he's drinking with these hookers, and they take him into a back room to engage in the banging. All the while, he has his tab open at the bar, and I had left, and he called me a pussy for leaving the bar. He's like, "Yeah, fucking Montone, you're a fucking pussy." He had a very irritating voice. It was like fucking Porky Pig getting sodomized. But anyway, so he's getting his dick sucked by these bar girls, and he's loving it, and he comes home, and he back to the hotel suite where we're all staying, and I hear him in the next room talking to our buddy Bono, and he's like, "Yeah, I got laid last night." Yeah, and he's talking to he brought one of the chicks with him. He's like, "You just fucked a future U.S. senator," because he was a man with political ambitions. And he comes into the room where I'm sleeping. He's like, "Yeah, Monta, I had an orgy last night. What do you think of that?" I'm like, I can't stand this motherfucker right now. I'm like, I hope there is fuckery afoot. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. So anyway, we're about to do a day of sightseeing out in Taipei, and we're trying to get cash out, and he can't make a single fucking withdrawal. So he calls his bank, and the bank explains to him that his card has been shut off because he spent $10,000 the night before at a bar and several other businesses in Taipei. It turns out that while he was getting his dick sucked by these hookers, the bartender was running up a tab all over town with his credit card. So he had to wait until they were able to mail him a new card out in Okinawa, and then the day the card arrived was also the day that the STD symptoms from whatever burning dick venereal disease the hookers gave him started to kick in. So after him being annoying as shit and calling me a pussy for going back to the hotel to get some sleep, and then us lending him money, which he just used on booze. Like, we were like, "Yeah, you're gonna need some shaving cream and stuff," and he spent the money on fucking booze instead. He was repaid with VD back on Okinawa. So just dessert. Couldn't have happened to a better person. But anyway, yeah, I went after that deployed out to Thailand, which is awesome. We trained with the Thais and the Koreans for a month, and after the end of the training day, we would get wasted with the Koreans and the Thais, and then we had a couple weeks off before our flight back to Oki, which was pretty much just drinking and going to strap-on shows, watching Thai women fuck each other with strap-on dildos while their friends jerked you off in the bleachers. They would fire darts out of their pussies. It was awesome. And the individual who got ripped off by the hookers in the Philippines actually wound up kicking a hooker in the face in Pattaya Beach, Thailand. I think he was still a little sore about the incident, but yeah, that was sort of the rest of my time in the Marine Corps, was just serving in Okinawa, which was just a fucking grind, because there are a million rules there, and you're constantly getting put on lockdown because somebody, a junior Marine got drunk and pulled a knife on a cab driver. So you're constantly they're just locking everyone down and not letting you out. You need a special card to get off base at night. It's really, really ridiculous. But there's also a lot of fun to be had because you deploy out to places like Thailand, where one night we were out training with the Thais. The final time I went out to Thailand, and the Thai officers took me and the staff NCOs out, and they take us to dinner, and the curfew is midnight, and we blow through the curfew. They took us to what passed as a nightclub out in Lopburi, Thailand, and the staff sergeant I'm with is, first of all, there's ladyboys everywhere, as is the case in much of Thailand. He's like, "Look, I want to fuck, but I don't want to accidentally wind up with a ladyboy. I gotta find a brothel." So it's like 2 a.m. now. We're already out. We may as well. We find a brothel. We take him upstairs. You drop him off. Go downstairs, eat some street food while he's up there doing his thing. About an hour or so passes. We're like, all right, we gotta go find him. We're like, fuck. What room did Staff Sergeant get dropped off in? We don't know. This is a 6-story building. It's like the size of a college dorm. So we're going at 3 o'clock in the morning. We're going door to door through this fucking dorm-sized building, looking for the Staff Sergeant so we can get back. We had like a closing ceremony at the end of training with the ties the next day. Finally, after about 45 minutes of looking, we get to this floor, and this chick is standing outside of her room, and she's like, "You look for your friend?" And we go over, and it is just the room's, like I said, it's like a dorm room. He's just laying face down, ass naked, in a twin bed with no clothing on, and a small pink washcloth covering up his ass cheeks. I had pictures and video of us waking him up. I threw out the fucking memory card. I threw it in the fucking ocean in Thailand because someone fucking ratted to the battalion commander about this, and I basically had to lie because I would have gotten in a fuckload of trouble for all of this shit. So I had to deny any knowledge of it. But yeah, we did that. I mean, a lot of being stationed in Asia is having run-ins with hookers. I remember standing on the street in Roppongi, Tokyo, and a woman in a business suit just walked by us, and she looked like she was a commuter on her way home from work. She just walked by, and she's like, "Suck your cock, $15." Japanese woman, perfect English. Suck your cock, $15. Yeah, ridiculous stuff. I wish I could get into more detail about it. I'm realizing I've gone an hour and over an hour, probably an hour and 20 some odd fucking minutes here, and I was, planning. I'm attaching an interview I did with my cousin to the back end of this, which I hope you will stick around for. Now that I've been ranting, I would say listen in multiple parts is probably the best way. So if you listened this far, you're like, this is fucking interesting. This Marine Corps shit is ridiculous. I want to hear more about it. Then do me a favor, stick around. If you're watching on the live stream, you're going to have to go to thesavagecrew.libsyn.com, or we're on Podbean, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, fucking everywhere. I'm going to have this, but if you listen to the audio version of the podcast, what's going to be coming up is an interview with my cousin Ben, who I told you went to Iraq before me and survived an attack with a 2,000-pound truck bomb on his patrol base right after getting in country. And it's something I'm forever grateful to the two Marines who gave their lives so that he could live. It's something I think about all the fucking time. On a, if not a daily basis, certainly a weekly basis. So I would ask you to stick around, check that out, or save it for later, or whatever. If not, if you must go, then before I give you that, please check me out on social media. Facebook.com/TheSavageCrew is where I do my live stream. Instagram at Gary_Moyler, MOYLER. Twitter at Mike Montone. And do I have another one? Oh, I blog a little bit over at meatheadmedia.com. Kind of soft launched it. I haven't publicized that stuff too much. But yeah, so with no further ado, this is an interview I did. It's a couple years old. I did this in 2018, so my interview skills aren't as sharp then as they are now. But I think we got a lot covered. So enjoy. It's my cousin, Staff Sergeant Ben Toupé. Joined the Marine Corps before me, stayed in longer than me. A far better Marine than I ever was, and certainly a more decorated and illustrious career. You'll hear me talking with him, and I truly thank you for listening, and thank you to everyone who reached out with Veterans Day wishes and Marine Corps birthday wishes and all that. It means a lot. So check it out and enjoy. I want to introduce my cousin Ben Toupé. Like I said, he just got out as a staff sergeant, a far better and more accomplished Marine than I ever was. So it has been a decade since that message popped into to my inbox.
10 years last April.
Jesus, I had just gotten into the Marine Corps. You were still pretty
You still had to be pretty fucking boot at the time, right? Because you were, what'd you get in like early '07?
Graduated boot camp December of '06. Hit the fleet in February of 2007, and so less than a year and a half in the Marine Corps.
All right, so you had a little bit of time in the fleet then. First Battalion, 9th Marines you were with, right? 1-9?
Yes.
So that was a unit that they brought back because of the two-theater war, right? That they had been pretty well known in Vietnam, and then they were stood down, and then came back because we surged and we needed a shitload more troops for the mission.
Yeah. So 1-9, First Battalion, 9th Marines, actually stood up in February of 2007. Reactivated because of the troop surge. Originally 1-9 stationed in San Diego, reactivated in North Carolina on Camp Lejeune. So we actually activated right as I joined the unit.
I mean, this is a brand new unit going out together for a deployment. What was the command environment like? Like, what was the mood on deck, throughout the workup, and in general, life in garrison, like the little things that kind of make Marine Corps life.
The Marine Corps, different Marine Corps, even as short as 10 years ago, the troop surge, everybody, Afghanistan wasn't really a Marine Corps fight as much as Iraq was. So units were constantly rotating in and out of Iraq there, and they had stood up an additional battalion. So there wasn't enough housing on base to permanently house all of the units that were activated. When I got to Camp Lejeune, we were in a different battalion's barracks on a different street, completely away from our command post. So when that unit got back from deployment, then we had to move to another empty barracks for a unit that was already gone. So the environment on Camp Lejeune at the time was very hectic. A lot of rotation. Basically, anybody that was senior to you had definitely had combat time in Iraq, and their sole purpose in life was to prepare you for your combat in Iraq.
Well, and not only combat time in Iraq, but I mean, coming off of, Ramadi hit its worst in what? 06 was probably the worst year for Ramadi, and then you have the two battles for Fallujah in 04, the one in the spring, and then the final one in November. So if you're a corporal in 07, then you cut your teeth through some of the nastiest shit that generation of Marines saw.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember just young. I mean, you don't know what you don't know when you're young, and man, I didn't know anything. And I remember meeting probably my first combat vet I think it was on Paris Island. There's this period of boot camp where you're on the rifle range, and the drill instructors aren't really around so much, and you kind of get to talk to real Marines, and they kind of level with you that you're younger. And these guys were, based on the time frame that I was there, they were part of the initial invasion into Iraq. And I asked a question just about what it was like, and the answer I got was graphic. He was like, well, the first time we got into a firefight, I watched my buddy get shot in the head.
Jesus Christ.
And 18-year-old me, I wasn't ready for that answer. I was like, oh man.
And plenty of 18-year-olds. I mean, look, you can deploy almost as soon as you hit a fleet unit. There are a lot of kids when you deploy that are 18, 19 years old. Were you like 19, 20 when you went?
Yeah, I was 19.
That's a young age. And war is a young man's game. I mean, it's a massive, violent game of chess, played by old men with using young men as chess pieces. I think as Marines, we can be blunt about that. It is what it. I don't think it devalues our service to say that that's what it is. But that's a really heavy thing for guys who are that age to. that's it's just a big burden to shoulder, especially when you look and juxtapose that to sort of the typical 18, 19-year-old, the way they deal with kind of everyday stupid stresses, like forgetting to do their homework or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I don't think it really hits you until, at least for me, until years later. It's you're constantly being told you're a grown man when you enter the Marine Corps at 18, or you're 20 and 21, and then it's even late into your 20s. I think for me was when I was like, oh, I had no idea what I was doing. I was a child. And then you're right. So your example of the high perspective of what the military conflicts actually are. You don't realize when you're in it, just being that young. I'm sure you had a similar experience when you're like, oh, okay, like you especially from a lieutenant's perspective, you have a platoon and you're like, this platoon is my domain. But when you kind of broaden out that perspective, you kind of see like, oh man, I had no idea that this platoon was my world, and there's this whole other metrics at play.
Yeah, and I was a very young platoon commander. I was a 23-year-old platoon commander when we got on the ground, and the other two lieutenants in my company were both 30 years old, which I'm 33 now. When I was 23, I thought 30 made you a fucking dinosaur. Little did I know that it was going to come up on me much, much quicker. But yeah, even look, you're a lieutenant and you're in charge of. I think I had 56 at the height of our TO. But that's just another piece on the company commander's board, and then that you and the entire company are just another piece on the battalion commander's board, and up it goes. And you get clued into a little bit of that as a lieutenant, because you have to send in like an operation schedule every week, and you see how it gets fit into like the rest of the battalion's operations matrix, and you're like, oh, we're a cog in a big ass machine here. But even then, as part of a battalion or even a regiment, you don't realize how large that machine really is. So you guys, what did you did your work up through? I mean, probably on the same schedule that I was on, because I got to Ramadi in April or like late March of 2009. So if you guys were getting there for spring of 2008, I'd assume you guys spent a lovely winter at 29 Palms.
We did. I remember actually the Marine Corps birthday was we spent in 29 Palms.
Oh wow! Well, what's a birthday what's a birthday ball out at Camp Wilson like?
It wasn't at Wilson. It actually fell when we were doing one of our field exercises, and we were like in the field for one. It was like I think they called it, like, it was their 3-day culmination exercise.
Oh,
where
the little 3-day war, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, it was I think it was cheesy. We had just the company there, and they had like MRE cake or something like that for the birthday celebration. But it wasn't much of a celebration, because I remember that I had to go like sit in a hole and stay up all night on watch. That wasn't. So I remember not being entirely thrilled about the Marine Corps, how old the Marine Corps was in 2007.
Hey, look, if the Marines are not complaining, that's when you know that there's something wrong.
Right.
So you hit the ground in, I'm assuming then had to be like late March or early April in Al Anbar.
I think the end of March we got in country.
Okay, so it's spring of 2008. What's the climate like when you get to Ramadi? Because I know I had a couple guys, like a couple of my squad leaders were Ramadi vets from like the 06, 07 years, when I want to say like 7th Marines and 3rd Marines were through there and involved in some pretty nasty shit. So as far as I understand, it hit its peak in 06, 07, but for an insurgency to die down, it doesn't happen overnight. It's still gradual. So were there Had you guys were you relieved? Was it 1-8 or 2-8?
Yeah, actually, we relieved both. This was, we were coming on the heels of what was touted as a successful campaign against the insurgency in Ramadi. So they were downsizing the amount of troops in the area. So, yeah, 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, and 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines were both, 1-8 occupied the city center, and then 2-8 occupied the surroundings, if you could call it suburbs, but more rural area surrounding the city. So we took over for both units and took over both their areas.
Okay, so were things still pretty? I know you said coming off massive success, so they're downsizing the amount of troops there, and I think that was around the time they were also beginning to probably eyeball at least figuring out which Marine battalions would be getting shifted to Afghanistan, because Afghanistan heated up like out of nowhere real quick. I don't know if you remember, there had been kind of a lull for a few years when Iraq got really nuts, and then things started to pick up quickly in Afghanistan. I want to say in like late 08 through 09, stuff started to get pretty hot over there. Was there much kinetic activity going on when you guys were in Ramadi, or as you were getting there for 8th Marines, or had things really calmed down a lot?
Things had calmed down. They were talking about turning the city over to the Iraqis completely, and the U.S. Presence kind of taking a back seat. So the kind of the atmosphere we kind of got into was 1-8 had told us, because we transitioned with the 1-8, and they had told us, hey, not a lot. There was some stuff, the insurgency. There were still people there that were doing attacks, but like you said, the height of the fighting was in 06 and 07, early 07. Kind of that winter between 06 and 07, I think, was the height. And we're talking like all out fighting that had pretty much stopped, and there were more or less just sporadic IEDs or ambushes that were more or less of a, hey, we're still here, but not an all out assault on the U.S. troops there.
It's interesting that you mention that you guys thought your mission was going to be turning things over to the Iraqis, because, again, I had Ramadi, same city, a year later, and that's like exactly what our mission was. It was like the first few months we took the lead on patrols. The last 3 months we were barely allowed to go outside of our patrol bases. Like, we were at the provincial government center out in the middle of town on Route Michigan there, and I mean, we were really like we were like the backup quarterback. Like, we were on the bench. We'd go out if there was like a big escort mission or whatever, but for the most part, we'd patrol the streets around the compound at night just to keep our areas safe. But our active patrol mission went away, I would say, around the middle of our 3rd month there. So we have civilians that are definitely going to listen to this. I want to kind of walk through what a RIP is, because I'm sure you've done a few of them, and then kind of just use that to segue into where you guys are at in the RIP when when you get to the police station and start a setup and all this happens.
We were actually on the main base in Ramadi for a month, just because our unit was transitioning out with 2 separate units, and they didn't actually get to Iraq at the same time. So we had about 3 weeks of kind of just sitting around waiting to transition with with our unit inside of the city. And we had we were my platoon, and actually my squad was assigned a police station. We were labeled a police transition team, and so our squad of about 15 total people occupied a compound with Iraqi police in the eastern district of Ramadi. So we got to the police station, and we met our counterparts, the outgoing unit, and we kind of set up our rotation. And the rotation was essentially, you mentioned RIP, relief in place, often called left seat, right seat, left seat driving, right, and then right seat as a passenger. So the first day or so is the outgoing unit putting us through the paces of what they have done and imparting their wisdom over what they learned for 7 months, and then us taking that information and operating our unit as we want to, with them kind of watching us and maybe giving us some feedback based on what they've seen. So our squad had 3 rotations. So each squad has 3 teams of 4, and each team would be responsible for an 8-hour shift. So 3 8-hour shifts. One shift would be standing watch on the guard posts, of which there were 3. One shift would be on a patrol cycle where they would go out for 1 or 2 patrols during that 8-hour block of time. And then one squad would be resting, and also a contingency force if anything happened which needed support. So the first day, I think we got there on April 21st. We met the outgoing guys. They said that it was a pretty quiet deployment. A couple things happened, sometimes they would get shot at, but not really overtly. No knockdown, drag out fights. They said it was pretty good. And a lot of the guys, especially the, some of the senior guys whose it wasn't their first deployment to Iraq, had said that this was going to be a much quieter deployment than they had ever seen. So it was kind of like a lax attitude that the city, the fight had been won and the city was good, as far as don't really need to be on guard as much.
I don't want to, and again, I don't want to, incriminate anyone from 8th Marines. Their reputation in Battle of Fallujah fucking precedes themselves. When you were out there, was the lax attitude like kind of palpable? I mean, did it feel like, because I mean, the drill, you're a fucking infantry unit leader long enough. What's everyone's favorite phrase in the Marine Corps? Complacency kills.
Right.
Did you see that out there, or was it more, look, everyone's aware that things have calmed down, but this is Iraq, where we're in the middle of the Sunni Triangle. Shit could pop off at any second.
I wouldn't say that they were outwardly complacent, but I mean, you sit anywhere for a period of 7 months, and you're not you're not getting into these big gunfights every day like you used to. Then you start, you kind of go, okay, it's day in and day out. I don't really have much to worry about. So outward laziness, no, but definitely like, hey, I hope this keeps up, and I'm letting my guard down a little bit. Not terrible, but just I don't need to be on super high alert, finger on the trigger all the time.
And which is, as you go through your workup and you start learning about things like like the Boyd cycle and different mental conditions and going through that scale from white up through black. I mean, there are times when it makes absolute perfect sense to take yourself from the orange or the red, where you're on high fucking alert like something's about to happen, to scale back down into the yellow zone where you're like, okay, we understand that something could happen and we're looking for it, but the odds say that nothing will happen. So that's a reality of combat. Like the mental game is there so much more. I think civilians probably get so accustomed to seeing like the footage is all just guys running around and shooting and stuff. There might not be a realization that there's a massive like mental aspect that goes into you hear about it after the fact with PTSD and stuff like that, but the mental preparation that goes into just being ready and being in a combat mindset. Can you kind of, now we're at it was Nasser IP station, right?
Right.
Can you kind of like walk me through, I guess, your day leading up to when it happened, and then I guess through when Harder and Yale are medevaced?
April 22nd, our fire team, we got up, I think, we were on watch at 4:30. So we had 8-hour shifts. So, we get up at 4:30, we're going to be there for 8 hours. Sun's not up. And we all kind of settle into our posts. I was up on the roof, 2 buildings in our compound. One was where all the Iraqi police operated out of, and one was kind of a Marine barracks. So our rooftop post was on top of the Marine barracks, and that's where I was for the duration of my posts. And the sun's coming up, cool morning. We can see into 2-story building. I'm on the roof. I can see into the surrounding, Ramadi is a heavily populated area. You can see into the surrounding buildings, and the local populace is kind of just going about their day, making bread, getting up in the morning when the sun comes up, stuff like that. And I'd say probably around 7:30 or 8 a.m. We start to hear the machine gun from the entry post go off. And when something like that happens, you kind of just instinctively are looking, saying, who's shooting and, what's the threat. And pretty much maybe 3 to 4 seconds after the machine gun starts to shoot, I see a bright fireball. Right, this fireball is huge. I mean, I saw it before I even heard it or felt it. It's like 2 stories high, and I could gauge that because there was a building in front of mine, that I could. It literally doubled in size. Huge fireball, and the force of that explosion, because it takes maybe a split second to hit you, knocked me and everybody that was on the roof. There's 3 of us, and it knocked us down and threw us several feet. Then what I can really just best describe as just being, if you've ever taken a big blow to the head and things are kind of hazy, or you're not really reality isn't really hitting you on reality's terms, and then one of the Marines from the outgoing unit, who had been around for a while, he started to scream that we had gotten that we were being attacked, which as we discussed, I was a brand new guy. This is first contact for me. I was, no real clue what's going on, other than like, this is actually happening right now. And there's gunfire happening, and he was a corporal, and he said, he told us, hey, listen, stay up on the roof, start looking for anybody with a weapon, and make sure everything's going all right. And he runs downstairs to go find out what had happened down at the entry point. And then kind of I don't know, time has a way of just kind of not working as you expect it to in situations like that. So what it felt like hours was really maybe 30 or 40 minutes. We were replaced on the roof because they needed support down below, because they think it was 7:30 in the morning. Everybody's sleeping, really, because there are people that are on night shift. I mean, we're 24-hour operations, and our building was rocked. We had our building had sandbags in the windows. Everything was on the ground. People were literally thrown from their beds, just because of the force of the explosion. And when I came, so we rushed down, because we're really the only ones that are suited up with our weapons in hand. So we start to we run down to the blast site to kind of assess the situation, and that's where Jordan and Jonathan both were. Large, giant crater. The area was completely unrecognizable to what had been there before. Because the post that they were standing in was plywood, sandbags. They had taken there was bulletproof glass, but like not manufactured for that post. They'd been cannibalized from a Humvee that had broken down, and they had just taken these bulletproof window panes and just set them on the post, so that there was it wasn't there anymore. And on top of all that, the explosion had completely knocked out our communications capability.
How did you guys manage to get word out that you needed? Were you able to jump in a truck and get a radio up?
That's actually what we did. Was the Marines that were manning the radios at the time of the attack, they were frantically trying to piece together the radios, and when the radios go out or they turn off, and everything's they had to reprogram all the radios, which takes time, and there are Marines that need to be medevaced, and you have to be able to communicate that, and whether or not there's a what type of casualty evacuation that you're going to do, whether it's you're going to transport someone via a truck, or you're going to call in a helicopter to come get them, and where's that site going to be? Does somebody have the ability to talk to the helicopter? A lot of that was, the Marines were frantically trying to. I'd say probably all told it took about 20 minutes, but I mean that 20 minutes is precious. Precious time.
Yeah, that's a long time. For people who don't understand, when he's talking about how big the blast was, 3,000 pound bomb.
2,000 pounds is what the explosive experts determined after the fact.
They drive around in these big ass rickety trucks all over the place in Iraq, and it was, I mean, that was Al Qaeda's weapon of choice, was the vehicle borne IED. Had there been an Iraqi guard up ahead at like a front post? I seem to remember reading something about him completely bailing.
Basically, the way that the entry point was set up was there was maybe 1 to maybe 100 or 150 yard access road that came into our compound area, and it had these jersey barriers that were supposed to position to where a vehicle that comes in has to kind of swerve around, kind of do like a snake to get into the compound. And what it's supposed to serve as is a deterrent for what had actually happened, so that someone couldn't just ram a truck laden with explosives down the road. But what the unfortunate part was that over time, those jersey barriers had been knocked out of place by the amount of traffic that had come in. Yeah. So the vehicle that conducted the attack, and maybe if we weren't clear, it was a suicide dump truck filled with 2,000 pounds of explosives that charged the post where Jordan and Jonathan were. He essentially had a straight shot because those jersey barriers had been moved over time and were not replaced. The post was manned by 2 Marines, and then there were also 2 Iraqi policemen who were positioned at the gate of our compound. And at the site, everybody had everybody that was there, the 4 of them, 2 Marines, 2 Iraqis, they were all able to see the truck turn down the access road, and the 2 because we had closed circuit television cameras, the Iraqis saw the truck coming down the access road and ran for cover and safety.
So that just leaves Yale and Harder. So do they start shooting immediately, or do they go through like an escalation of force, or was that it, just fucking unload?
The only information we had is what was recorded on the cameras, and from the cameras you can pretty much see that it was near immediate. The truck didn't really get but halfway down the access road, the short access road, before they opened fire, and it didn't stop until the truck detonated.
This happens. You're on your rooftop post. You're immediately assigned overwatch over the scene, and then you get reassigned down to help out on the ground where all this has gone on. There's I can only imagine a shitload of chaos, in addition to the fact that you've just gotten knocked on your ass by a large explosive. So getting really well oriented to the situation alone probably takes a lot of your mental energy, and then executing the task at hand. Again, you have two Marines that you have to get evac'd because you're going to try to save their lives. You have to get communication up. You don't know if there's going to be a follow-on attack. Is this going to be a suicide truck at the front gate while they try to come over the walls with something? I mean, who the hell knows at that point? So it's Marines are mission focused by their nature. At what point are you able to kind of deal with the reality that, oh shit, this is a friend, this is a guy in my fucking squad who is now in peril. Like I need to know what the hell happened to him. Is he okay? Is he gonna make it? Yes, no. How do you process that? And then being away from the flagpole at a was it a platoon patrol base?
It was a squad, Swedish squad.
Christ, that's a small size to have that far outside the wire for that extended of a period of time. How is the message that that those Marines didn't make it? How's that relayed to you? And then how does the situation change there? Because the Marine Corps has dealt with death and casualties. Again, that's it's the business, but there's a massive human element to it, and to go out and continue to do that job, like we said before, you have to have your mind has to be in a certain place to be good at it, and I think you can prepare for it all you want, but when that actually happens, how does that change the deployment for you going forward, especially since it was just right at the beginning of your time in Iraq?
So you're correct about the mission oriented. And remember, I was young. 19. Hadn't been in the Marine Corps for 2 years. First contact ever, and the fact that we had casualties, I understood. But just the chaos of what had happened didn't really register. You're just kind of moving forward, and so essentially, I found somebody who was given directions, and then I took some directions. We ended up pushing out a couple teams to clear the surrounding buildings. I volunteered for that because people were just saying, hey, this is what needs to happen. Let's get it done. And there are so many people. Remember, there's two different units. There's two different units there. And one of the questions was who's in charge. Luckily Marines are Marines, and whoever takes charge takes charge, and everybody was competent. So that wasn't an issue. But we pushed out teams. We cleared the surrounding buildings. I took direction, and it wasn't until maybe 5 or 6 hours later that we were. And maybe, like I said, time not really positive, but several hours later, when we were convinced that there wasn't a follow-on attack coming, at least in the near immediate future, where we needed to have everybody suited up and ready, where we kind of dealt with the situation. Everybody who wasn't actually on a post got together as a squad, and we discussed that Jordan was killed. Yale was on a flight to one of the major surgery units. We later found out that he died en route to that surgery unit, and that process was brand new for me. I didn't really know how to take it in. It wasn't really for a couple weeks that I realized the seriousness, but just kind of the levity of that situation just hit me, because you just there wasn't really any room for that emotion to really take place until later, because there just wasn't really any downtime.
Yeah. How do you keep doing the job then? Because the history of the Marine Corps is one of death and violence. We sing songs about it. With the gallows humor runs rampant. The stories of Chosen Reservoir, Iwo, Okinawa. Pick one, and interlace with the tales of guys who stormed the hill and killed all of the Japanese are the stories of guys who died holding a position or just died hitting the beach. But the show goes on, and you still have a job to do. So I mean, how does gearing up to go on post change? How does going out on patrol change? How does downtime spent with the other guys in your unit change? How does the mood on deck in the platoon, company, battalion? How does a situation like this affect all of that?
It affected us greatly, especially when you put it against what the rest of the battalion was feeling, because like we discussed earlier, the mood in the city was mostly of calm and success and not a lot of combat at all. And we ended up being one of the, you fast forward and the outgoing unit's gone. It's just us, and we were extremely tense. We're ready for knockdown, drag out fights to happen based off of the most combat that Ramadi had seen in a long time, and that just wasn't really the case. It was one of those. The insurgency was still there, letting us know that they were still there, but not ready to have a big fight. And the rest of the unit was battalion was still pretty much not having combat on a day-to-day basis, whereas we had just experienced one of the most personal and traumatic experiences that you can have with losing a squad member. That we were completely on edge, and the people of Ramadi were pretty much ready for the fighting to be over. And it was a very interesting dynamic. What it ended up really being is just, we were angry, that we had this combat experience, but no extended or prolonged fight with it. We had just kind of gotten sucker punched, and they didn't stick around to slug it out.
Yeah, look, you're Marines, and one of the things they talk about when you're going to go out and do counterinsurgency is, you won't, if your posture is correct, you won't get hit. The insurgents don't want to fuck with units that they know can fuck them up. They're going to choose their targets where they can hit you and not suffer casualties themselves, because that's simply the way they operate. So to have that happen, to take away that element of locate, close with, and destroy the enemy that Marines, and especially young Marines who are fresh out of SOI and who have just done a combat workup, I mean, so geared towards performing that kind of mission, to have to take something like that and as personal as it is, to swallow it and then go about your job for another 5-6 months with kids running up and asking for pencils and people offering you chai and whatever the fuck else the Iraqis do. I mean, to be 19, 20 years old and have that is just an absolute mindfuck. Again, we're talking about college kids who have difficulty if they see their ex walking out of the library. It's like a whole fucking thing that they have to go on Facebook or Twitter about. That to deal with something of that magnitude at that age is absolutely massive. And I look at this moment, and it's already been memorialized in a birthday ball message from the commandant. From I believe General Kelly gave a speech about it as well. It's a watershed moment in the history of the Marine Corps, because what they did in staying there and shooting at that truck, and what you guys did in going and performing your jobs in the immediate aftermath of a massive attack. I mean, that blast, it has to be on the scale of of like Beirut if that truck gets through. I mean, that's wiping out a fucking unit. This moment in Iraq, and obviously I'm biased because these guys saved your life, but I feel it really exemplifies the Marine Corps values of honor, courage, and commitment. I mean, standing in the face of that, especially after the Iraqi guards fucking bail, and laying down fire when you know that if this truck isn't stopped, it means your entire unit is. I mean, that is when people think of the Marine Corps. I think I definitely want them to think of guys who are that selfless. How does being in that unit impact the rest of your career? Because you are not like I am. I am what they call a one pump chump. You've obviously done a hell of a lot for our Corps than I have. How did that affect you going forward? As you became an NCO and a staff NCO and went on to Afghanistan deployments.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's definitely changed the course of my life. I mean, quite literally.
Yeah.
Because you're right. If the truck had gotten through the entry point, it would have. I mean, the Iraqi people, I don't think, are known for their engineering prowess, and those buildings would have easily crumbled. And I think actually we're just on the heels of the Beirut bombing anniversary.
Like 2 days ago, yeah.
Yeah, and it would have very much been the same thing, because what killed all those Marines was the fact that the truck had collapsed the building where all the Marines were sleeping, and the same thing would have happened, no doubt, if the suicide bomber had gotten through the gate. So, rightly so, Jordan and Jonathan posthumously awarded Navy Cross for their actions, but the impact it had on me, profound, because it does exemplify exactly what Marines are supposed to do when called to action. And because of that, when you see it in its most, and a lot of times, just because I'd say the global war on terror era Marine Corps, very different from a Vietnam era or before, when conflicts were completely, entire, divisions were engaged in combat. A lot of our discussions are hypotheticals, and so you don't actually get to see that action or selflessness on a firsthand basis. And for me to actually have experienced that personally, it definitely affected me and the way, and my career going forward. And I was able to impart that, especially the seriousness of what we sign up to do on a younger generation.
Again, talking about seeing that kind of thing and experiencing it, and not even seeing it, really experiencing it and living it up close, and the rest of the battalion having sort of an easier deployment. I mean, you're outside the wire. There's no necessarily easy deployment, but relatively speaking, the other Marines in El Anbar during that time period and through the end of the war in general had much tamer deployments. My deployment was incredibly tame. I think we had very light contact, maybe once every 6 weeks or so. How are guys doing okay? Have any been struggling with it since then? What has there been kind of like a lasting effect for the rest of the dudes in the squad?
We all keep in regular contact. I mean, life does get the better of everybody, but there's a big core group of us that are close to the East Coast. There's a memorial run in Jordan's hometown of Long Island that we attend every year. Those of us that can come, and everybody's been doing great, kicking ass and, really living life, having, families. And it's, I think a lot, no, I don't think, I mean, I think everybody struggles with life, to a certain extent, but I think uh, the experience that we had definitely, is motivation that when, things get tough, that, that you had somebody that was willing to put their life down so that we could all live ours.
That's an incredibly humbling sentiment, and it's good to hear that the guys are doing well, because I mean, one of the stories of the veterans of OIF and OEF has been that some are not adapting to life back here, whether it be because of combat or other issues. But it's to take a tragedy like that and then see that and hear that guys are sort of earning the sacrifice that that Harder and Yale made for them that day. It doesn't make it better, but it warms the heart a little bit to know that when they were at their best as Marines when their other Marines needed it, and now those Marines are able to fulfill the rest of their lives and go out and start families and again. But before we wrap up, I'll give you the floor to say anything you want in closing. I just want to say to you, I appreciate your service. Whenever I tell people that my cousin's also a Marine, I also add a much better and more accomplished Marine than I was, despite the shiny shit on my collars. But I'm forever grateful to those two. I still remember getting the Facebook message from you when I was a young boot lieutenant at the basic school, going out into the field during the week and fucking off up at the University of Maryland on weekends, and that was a very, very sobering message to get at that time. But if you wanna say anything before we wrap this up, go for it, cuz.
Yeah. Well, one, I appreciate you having me on. I think any opportunity I have to tell Jordan and Jonathan's story, I like to take advantage of, because it's not common. But the sacrifice that they gave is something for to talk about, and their story needs to be told and heard as much as possible. So yeah, absolutely, I appreciate you having me on. Also, if I give a quick plug, there's a short film by a former Marine turned film major, and he's actually doing a pretty good job. It's set for release, I think, in April. It's called the 11th Order 6 Seconds to Live short film, and any of your listeners can just put that into Google or Facebook and they'll find it.
No shit. I think I'd actually seen that title on. I googled this the other day, and I think that actually popped up. I got to look into that.
Yeah. I've seen a couple promos. I did a couple interviews with the filmmaker, and he's got the best interest of the story at heart. Former Marine, and the short trailers he's cut so far look pretty good.
Excellent. I appreciate you cluing us into that. And anything else before I wrap this recording?
No, absolutely. I appreciate everything.
All right, man. Yo, I thank you very much for coming on. Let me hit stop here, and then we can chat offline for a second before I got to call the woman.
Sure.
All right, one sec. All right, guys, that does it for this week's episode. And again, as I've said before, when I've discussed, I've touched on what these guys did. This was the first time we really went in depth. I'm forever grateful for the sacrifice they made, because it means that a Marine that I've loved as a brother since before either of us were Marines got to keep on living, keep on fighting, and is now raising a great family down in North Carolina. So again, just incredibly grateful, and a line from General Kelly's speech about this, I really think sums it up. An Iraqi police officer, when General Kelly went to visit the scene, came up to him with tears in his eyes and was describing the Iraqi police officers who ran from the guard post, and he said, those guys did what anyone would have done. Of course they ran to save their own lives. There was a 2,000-pound truck bomb coming. What those Marines did, no sane man would have done. And that really sums it up for me. I wish I'd actually hadn't read that speech in a while until after I produced this. So that's why it's getting kind of shoehorned in there at the end. But I really wanted to just add that line because just amazing. Again, just a testament to honor, courage, and commitment. So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. And happy birthday, Marines. Semper Fi. Catch you guys on the next episode. Until then, you can find me at facebook.com/The Savage Crew, at Mike Montone on Twitter, at Gary_Moiler, Moyler, on Instagram, and more episodes are available, like I said, thesavagecrew.libsyn.com.